Floor is yours, Your Worship.
Okay, Diana, will you do the roll call, please?
Your Worship, I can confirm the IT manager, Cecil Coxon, and myself, Deputy Clerk Diana Wilson, are in attendance in the council chamber. For those participating by video conference, please answer present when your name is called. Mayor Manel,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Present.
Councillor Widner,
Present.
Councillor Moore,
Present.
Councillor Cerna,
Present.
Councillor Lewis,
Present.
Councillor Galinsky,
Present.
Chief Administrative Officer Clerk Michelle Casavecchia Summers,
Present.
Director of Fire and Emergency Services Brent Smith,
Present.
Director of Physical Services Matt Sweetland,
Present.
Director of Development and Community Services Jean DeMeo,
Present.
Director of Finance Arun Mahili,
Present.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Next order of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof.
Yeah, I have two relating to the drains, the Taylor Branch D and the Hansaboat Drain. And I've already submitted to Diana, I believe, my forms.
Okay, thank you, Mark. The minutes from April 16th, was there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, mover and seconder for the minutes, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Moore, second by Cerna. All those in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes,
carried.
thank you. Next, we have now for Mark, does he need to leave the scene? What's the status there, Michelle?
How's that?
Okay,
It's better.
Thanks. Makes you look better.
Oh, dear.
okay, next we have the Taylor Branch Drain, Branch D, presented by Spreets Associates. And John, is John Michael there?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, John Michael. You give us an outline of the nature of the proposed work, please.
Sure. Tonight's meeting is the Taylor Drain Branch D. It's a new drain, a Section 4 drain. It's come about as a condition of severance by Mr. Thiessen. It's on Hacienda Road. He recently severed a lot, and one of his requirements was that he had to provide a legal outlet through the Drainage Act for the property. So what we're proposing to do tonight is construct a branch to the Taylor Drain to be known as Branch D, and start in the severed lot and run north to the existing Taylor Drain that was constructed in 2006. The total works involves 97 meters of 150 millimeter diameter sewer pipe, lawn restoration and connection to the existing drain, plus a catch basin to capture surface flows from the new lot. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, John Michael. Diana, could you advise, has anyone submitted any comments?
Your Worship, no concerns were received.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience? I can't imagine. Do we have an audience potentially?
No, Your Worship. Everyone was required to submit their comments in writing in advance if they had any issues or concerns or questions.
Okay.
Your Worship, the drainage superintendent did speak to the petitioning landowner, and he was fine with everything.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like we lost the mayor for a moment. We'll give it just a minute, and then if the mayor isn't able to reconnect, then we'll ask the deputy mayor to step in as the alternate chair. But we'll give him a moment to see if he can reconnect. The challenges with electronic meetings sometimes. Okay, so we've lost him altogether. He'll probably dial back in again, but Madam Deputy Mayor, if you wish to assume the chair.
Certainly. So Diana, I do not have the script in front of me, but I think we've already requested for questions or comments from council, and is the next step to then ask for a mover and seconder?
Somehow I just lost everybody.
Oh, there, okay. We can hear you now again, Your Worship.
Okay, I went off gallery. I have no idea why. At any rate, did anyone hear the request for the resolution?
No, I'd asked the deputy mayor to assume the chair for a moment, but we didn't get that far yet.
Okay, well, back to the engineer's report. Mover and second, engineer's report for the Taylor Drain Branch D as prepared by Streets Associate, dated April 1st, 2020, be accepted. That bylaw number 20-29 being a bylaw to provide for the Taylor Drain Branch D drainage work be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted.
I'll move.
Moved by Lewis, seconder
Yeah.
Galinsky. All those in favor?
Councillor Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manal.
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Now I need a mover and second. Quarter revision for the Taylor Drain Branch D be scheduled to be held on June 4th, 2020 at 7:30. Mover and seconder. Moved by Moore. Seconder.
I'll second it.
Second by Cerna. All in favor?
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manal.
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Now we need a mover and second of attendance for the construction of the Taylor Drain Branch D be requested for May 29th, 2020 at 11 a.m. Mover and second, please.
I'll move it.
Moved by Galinsky, second by Lewis. All in favor?
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manal.
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Next, we have the Hansboat Drain Extension 2020. Is Mike there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Mike. You give us the engineer's comments, please.
Sure. This report is prepared under Section 78 for improvement to a channel downstream of the existing Handsabout Drain and the Martindale drains. Those drains serve parts of lots 29 to 31, 2 and 3. The main concern of the landowner was erosion, and most of that is due to the large drop in elevation as the channel approaches Lake Erie. The tributary area is about 232 hectares, so there's a fair amount of water at times that has to drop a significant elevation. There were several alternative designs that were prepared and investigated and reviewed with the owners, although there was concerns raised with the alternatives with regard to life expectancy and cost. So after receiving some of that feedback and further discussions, it was decided to look at sort of a reduced alternative or a one that would have a longer life expectancy. And that is the report that you have before you. It is recommended that 2 erosion control weirs be constructed try and slow the water down and reduce the peak flows when the flows are at their highest, as well as incorporate 3 crossings that were put into the channel with between the landowner and the conservation authority during the time of the preparation of the original alternatives. So it's incorporating some temporary works or some in-between works that were done, as well as some new works, and then the existing channel from the end of the boat drain down to where the cross veins would become part of the Hansabout drain extension. And open up for questions.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Diana, was there any comments submitted?
Through you, your worship, no comments have been received.
Okay. Any questions from council to Mike? Seeing none, I'm assuming that there was no petitions against the drain, Michelle or Diana?
No, your worship.
Okay. Mike, what's the next steps in the process?
The next step would be to schedule a quarter revision.
So I need a mover and seconder the engineer's report for the Hansabout Drain Extension 2020 as prepared by Streets Associates, dated January 29th, 2020 be accepted. And the bylaw number 2030 being a bylaw to provide for the Hansabout Drain Extension 2020 drainage work be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted. Mover and seconder, please.
So moved.
Moved by Lewis, second by Jaguar. All in favor?
Councillor Whitner? Sorry, Councillor Moore?
Yes.
Councillor Cerna?
Yes.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar?
Yes.
Mayor Manel?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Now I need a mover and seconder order revision for the Hansabout Drain Extension 2020 is scheduled to be held on June 4th, 2020, 7:30. So mover and seconder, please.
I'll move it.
Moved by Sir, seconder.
Move. Or.
Moved by second by Thor. All in favor?
Councillor Moore?
Yes.
Councillor Cerna?
Yes.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar?
Yes.
Mayor Manel?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. And finally, a mover and seconder, the tenders for the construction of the Hansabout Drain Extension 2020 be requested for May 29th, 2020 at 11 a.m. Mover and seconder.
Move it.
Moved by Lewis, second by
I'll second it.
Linsky. All in favor?
Councillor Moore?
Yes.
Councillor Cerna?
Yes.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar?
Yes.
Mayor Manel?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Matt, are Matt available?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Are you doing the bridge and culvert inspection, Matt?
Yes, that's correct. I can also confirm for everyone that the YouTube link is working and it's being viewed downstairs at my home right now.
Oh, good.
So, yes, so the Public Transportation and Highway Improvement Act requires that all bridges, including culverts greater than 3 meters in diameter, be inspected every 2 years under the direction of a professional engineer. Township's last round of bridge inspections took place in 2018 by Limited, and accordingly, new inspections are required in 2020. Township staff were very pleased with the prior inspections and reporting completed by MEDA, who have also agreed to hold their invoice rate of $8,880.22, including HST that they had invoiced from the 2018 inspection program, and apply that same rate to the 2020 program. Work includes the inspection for 12 bridges and 21 culverts. So they did get a great price on this work. Yeah, all this work is included in the 2020 budget, and as I mentioned, some savings have been realized by MEDA holding that rate from the 2018 report. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on that.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Questions for Matt on the bridge and culvert inspection?
Mayor Moore, is this an extension of the contract that we had with them 2 years ago, or is this going to be a new contract? And was it tendered?
Matt?
Yes, through your worship. This is a new contract with MEDA. The work was not tendered. We were in touch with MEDA directly. However, it solicit some verbal quotations from other consultants, which so prices would be in the $14,000 range for this work. And MEDA was holding their 2016 and 2018 price of just over or just under $9,000.
Mayor Moore, so we did compare with other possible consulting firms. So this isn't a one source deal. It's a roundabout way of tendering, I guess.
Yes, that's correct. We did consult with other consultants to compare pricing and to confirm that the favorable pricing submitted by MEDA was a good deal for the township.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chad. Dominique?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So through you to Matt, so can you confirm then just for according to our purchasing procurement policy, under 10,000, we don't technically have to do a formal tender, but you did go look for prices to compare to get the best rate, but we did not need a multiple quotes?
Through your worship, that is correct. That we did not need to follow a formal policy, but we did obtain verbal quotations.
Any other questions for Matt? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, report number PS 2019 entitled Consulting Service 2020 Bridge and Culvert Inspection be received. The 2020 Bridge and Culvert Inspection work be awarded to MEDA Limited of Windsor, Ontario to provide inspection service to the township in the amount of $8,808.22, inclusive of HST, being the upset limit to complete the work. The mayor and clerk be authorized to enter an agreement with MEDA Engineering and Technical Services Limited of Windsor, Ontario for the purpose of completing the 2020 bridge and culvert inspection work. So mover and seconder, please.
So moved.
Moved by Serna. Seconder?
Second.
Second by Moore. All in favor?
Councillor Woodner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Thank you. Matt, the bridge washing.
Yes, through your worship. In order to increase the life expectancy and reduce harmful effects of road salt, the township solicits prices annually from contractors for bridge washing services. The scope of work for these contracts include cleaning of all sand and gravel and salt using high pressure water and submitting inspection reports following the completion of each job washing. 4 quotes were received from the work, which ranged from $7,051 to $11,500. We've seen a steady increase in these contracts for the last number of years and received about just over a 4% increase over last year's price, which is quite reasonable for this work. For recommending the award of this work to Norbrook Contracting Limited of Caledon, Ontario for the low bid price of $7,051.
Thank you, Matt. Questions for Matt on the bridge washing?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Rick.
I see we have to pay for the county bridges as well as our own.
Through your worship, correct. The township bridges and the county bridges are included in this, which the county bridges are paid for under the road maintenance agreement.
Okay, good. So indirectly, the county's paying for it anyways.
For their bridges, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Matt?
Yes.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, your worship, through you to Matt. This isn't the company we've previously had, is it?
To my knowledge, no, I can't. I'm not positive on that. I'll have to ask the roads manager if we've used this company before.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go any further with that question, but you know why I'm asking. Our poor
Any other questions for Matt? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number PS 2021 entitled Tender Results 2020 Bridge Washing be received, that the 2020 bridge washing contract be awarded to Norbrook Contracted Limited of Caledon, Ontario, in the amount of $7,051 plus taxes. Mover and seconder, please.
I'll move it.
Moved by Widner, seconder.
I'll second it.
Second by Cerna. All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky, Councillor Galinsky,
I think you're on mute, Chess.
I didn't create it.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Thank you. Matt, the tender results on the aggregate, please.
Yes, so the township regularly solicits prices from local aggregate suppliers. The use of each pit is dependent by the township's discretion. Pit location, staff availability, delivery, pickup included, and the unit price of the product. We received two quotations from two suppliers, being Nickley Aggregate, Dorchester, and AROC's Alliston Pit. Which is just west of Springwater Road. We supply prices for a wide range of materials that the township may use on various projects. There has been a significant price increase on a number of different products, which is largely based on supply of those products. This report is provided for council's information as we use these products based on where our project locations are and track the budgets of the work as it's being completed. So if there's questions you have about these, I'd be happy to respond.
Thank you, Matt. Questions for Matt on the aggregate?
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
I
I'm
see
glad I'm in.
you can hear me.
Go ahead, Jess.
How long are these prices good? Since I see they seem to be with two different companies and seems to jump back and forth. So, and I assume that we buy from the pit that's the closest and will be the most economical. With that consideration, how long will these prices be good?
Through you, your worship, these prices are good for the 2020 construction season through the end of the year.
Thank you.
We would be soliciting new prices again in 2021. And you're correct with the assumption that we'd be picking the closer pit and the most economical solution.
Any other questions from? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number PS 2020 to 2022 entitled Tender Results 2020 Processed Aggregates we received.
I'll move.
Moved by Galinsky, second by Lewis. All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Thank you. Matt, are you doing the SCADA service as well?
I'm going to defer to the water wastewater manager for this next report.
Okay, go ahead, Scott.
Oh, sorry, one moment. I'm just bringing up my screen here. All right, good evening. Good evening, Worship and members of council. Are you just waiting for the resolution, the recommendation?
Can I hear you? Sam, you can go ahead and present.
Okay, sorry. All right, so as the council is aware, the Malahide water distribution system and Malahide sewage collection system utilize supervisory and control and data acquisition system known as SCADA to provide continuous monitoring, operational control, alarm notification, as well as a variety of other functions for the water and sewer systems. So it is the staff's understanding that in 2006, the primary water supply system responsible for the regional water supply initiated the implementation of SCADA and invited secondary boards, water systems, and member municipalities to collectively enter into both Burwell and Elmer secondary joint boards of management and the Township of Malahide, acting as the administering municipality, formed the APAM group consisting of Elmer, Port Burwell, and Malahide. Through the group then gained approval through a mutual agreement process to collectively enter into agreements with the primary water supply to oversee the project at that time. And SUMA Engineering was selected to construct the SCADA system through a competitive bid process. The system became operational in 2009, and once established, the responsibility of the oversight and continued management of the system was under the control of the APAM members. SCADA itself is an essential component of technological monitoring infrastructure, which requires continued life cycle replacements at scheduled intervals to ensure the asset maintains its useful function. So as a result of an aging central server in 2016, the staff retained Stantec Consulting to proceed with the preparation and release of a quotation for the virtualization of the existing SCADA central server. This would modify the existing server to act as a host machine and allow multiple operating systems to be partitioned as specialized small virtual servers, each capable of their own independent operating system instances. This provided a greater ability for backup and recovery of pertinent data. So at that time, only 2 qualified vendors submitted bids for the work, and the bid submitted by SUMA Engineering was 38% less than the other vendor. And through a thorough review, Stantec completed and recommended that SUMA Engineering be selected to complete the required work. So SUMA are the original system developers and integrators of the SCADA system and have provided ongoing maintenance and support since the time it was created. They specialize in the water and wastewater industry and are advising of industry best practices for the type of application and upgrade proposed. In previous projects, they've also demonstrated a history of successful implementation with minimal impacts to operations. They've provided staff with continued support on an ongoing basis as issues arise, and on numerous occasions provide remote support at no additional cost to the APAM group. So SUMA advised previously at the time of virtualization that in order to ensure the long-term sustainability and not degrade the SCADA asset, that in the coming years, continual improvements and investments are going to be required to ensure the technology evolves and as technology evolves and software and hardware compatibility issues develop. This approach will ensure that manufacturer support is able to be provided and that the system stays current with industry standards. So the existing SCADA server is using 12-year-old software and has reached the end of its useful life cycle and is no longer compatible with the evolved field hardware. So accordingly, the proposed upgrade recommended in the report suggests that a 6-year life cycle can be expected for hardware, with software lasting for 2 hardware life cycles. So the programmable logic controllers, which are essentially the hardware which communicate with the central server, are also 12 years old, and they have reached their life cycle and will require replacement in the coming years. But the need for the upgrade is a result that though the current PLCs or the new most recommended PLCs will not be able to migrate and without the proposed SCADA upgrades. There's not capacity within the existing server to accommodate, and the software applications that are currently being used are not capable of implementing and integrating future PLC systems. So given the complex intricacy of the data system and requirements to maintain its successful long-term operation, the staff sought a proposal from the original integrators. SUMA has provided the entire engineering design for the cost of the upgrade, and receipt of the SUMA engineering proposal has avoided costs with design, tendering, and contract administration as compared to the 2016 virtualization. So there's a substantial savings by selecting the original integrator to the system, and staff do believe they are competitive. So at this time, the staff are recommending that the Township of Malahide, along with the Elmer Area Secondary Water Supply Joint Board of Management and the Port Burwell Area Secondary Water Supply Joint Board of Management, accept the SCADA system upgrade as proposed by SUMA Engineering for the replacement of the central server and corresponding software and hardware upgrades. And just moving to the financial implications to the budget. When the SCADA system was constructed, the capital cost for the central server was shared between both joint boards and the Malahide Township water and sewer systems. The cost was divided between each system based on the number of remote SCADA sites that connect to the central server. And it should be noted that for this particular proposed upgrade, the Elgin Middlesex pumping station was not included in the Elmer Secondary Board's cost apportionment, as it is on a separate SCADA system and uses interconnectivity to allow it to be viewed on the APAM SCADA. So the EMPS has been historically included in network agreements, as we do have interconnectivity to view the site. So based on the historical cost apportionment for this work, it's broken down into individual remote sites. So the Elmer Area Secondaries apportionment is 3/9 of the share, which would be for the Chamber 13, Chamber 16, both meter chambers, the Elmer Water Tower, and then for Port Burwell Secondary, this is for the MV1 Valve House, the Dexter Rechlorination Facility, the Port Burwell Water Tower, and the Lakeview Rechlorination Facility. The Malahide share for the water system is for the Copenhagen Booster Pumping Station, supplying customers north of Nova Scotia Line along Imperial. And the Malahide sewer system apportioned is for the Springfield Sewage Pump Station. So this is a joint project on a shared asset between both joint boards. And at their scheduled meeting on April 29th, both approved their funding for their cost apportionment for the required APAM central server upgrade. Additionally, both joint boards of management authorized the single source acquisition of the APAM SCADA central server upgrade from SUMA Engineering. So just moving to the Malahide water budget, the work was included and adopted by council in November of 2019 for the 2020 budget, and the apportioned cost is less than the budgeted amount. Moving to the Malahide sewer budget, the work was not included in the Malahide sewer budget, and in the report it states that the costs can be accommodated within the overall capital budgets to be funded from reserves. However, staff are confident that within the system maintenance budget for 2020, this should be able to be accommodated. So just moving on, in summary, It is essential that life cycle replacements are completed at scheduled intervals, and this also allows capital upgrades to be scheduled appropriately and ensure future budgets plan for life cycle replacements. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Questions for Sam on his report?
Mayor Manel,
Go ahead, Jess.
the engineering were 38% less costly than Stantec. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Glinsky. So that was the 2016 tendering process, and Stantec was acquired by the township to solicit bids from multiple vendors. So Stantec was acquired by the township as a consultant, whereas in this case, staff will be managing the project along with SUMA Engineering. So Stantec was the consultant, but there was another bidder that submitted at that time. But no, it was SUMA submitted their bid to Stantec.
So if I may continue, there's no real need to authorize single source acquisition of APAM SCADA if others were consulted as well. Is that correct?
Through your worship, Councillor Glinsky. So being that this is a mutual asset between two joint boards of management and the township, and the total cost of the project, it was required, I do believe, to at least present and gain approval from the boards and from the council based on the dollar value of the upgrade. It's uniquely different being that it's split between multiple parties. But for transparency and for, as in good faith as the administrating municipality on behalf of the boards, staff felt that the report was necessary to gain that approval.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Sam? Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Sam. I just wanted to clarify the budgeting. So we did budget for it in the water budget, but we didn't budget for it in the sewer budget. So I was just wondering, was that just an oversight, or is this unplanned on the sewer budget side?
So through your worship to Deputy Mayor Giguère. So yes, it was when the budgets were prepared, and this really myself advising, finance department and planning and advising what assets require to be funded in the budget. And so for this particular, as you can see by the breakdown being in fractions, for this particular upgrade, there was a lot involved, and truthfully, it was my oversight that we apportioned the total cost in the water, and we did not split it. However, with the value that's required from the sewer budget, each year we complete sewer flushing and cleaning of the system. We have 3 separate zones, and last year, for example, it was just over $13,000 plus tax, which is drawn from the system maintenance budget. It's not required in 2020 because we skip this year, and then we'll commence and complete the whole town over the next 3 years. So those funds should be able to be accommodated in the system maintenance budget, which is $25,000. And typically that is just in place for those sewer flushing programs, whereas this year it's not required. And due to the overall condition and of the sewer system being such a young system, staff are confident that those funds won't be required for other maintenance purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, mover and second report number PS 2016 entitled APAM SCADA Central Servicer Replacement and Hardware and Software System Upgrade to be received, and there's a recommendation by staff.
Giguère, I'll move.
Moved by
second.
Giguère, second by Glinsky. All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manel.
Yes,
Carried.
thank you. Jean, you're doing the next one?
Thank you.
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Jean. Go ahead.
There we go. You guys can see me?
I can't, but it doesn't matter. I can hear you.
Okay, that's the important thing, I guess. So, good evening, Your Worship and Council. I have one report for Council's consideration this evening. That is report DCS 2013, which is the extension of the Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Service Agreement. As Council will recall, last year we engaged MEU Consulting on a one-year trial period to act as our bylaw enforcement officers after our multi-year relationship with commissionaires came to an end. Basically, it was a one-year contract as a trial to see if we would be happy with them, and they performed adequately. And at that point, there was a 3-year option to renew. So I guess I can report that at least as far as staff has heard and as far as we're concerned, the performance of MEU over the past year has been very strong. They've cleaned up a lot of old files, have dealt with complaints. I think I pressed something because my computer's talking to me. Okay, sorry.
We can still hear you, Jean.
Well, I have earplugs in, it starts talking to me. I apologize. So, the performance of the contractor has been very satisfactory over the year. So again, as I said, the public has been very positive. We've seen some good results with respect to cleaning up of old files, dealing with any new complaints. They're very prompt in their response to any issue, very professional within how they deal with everything, how they deal with the public. So we would recommend that we do extend the contract for the optional 3 years. And they're looking at a 2-year increase, I believe, every year of that, which is very much in line with what past agreements have been with commissionaires, and even previous to that, other contracted bylaw enforcement agencies that we've dealt with. So staff's, again, our recommendation would be that we are happy with them and that we would extend the 3-year agreement. So if there's any questions for council, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Jean. Jean, on the MEU Consulting?
I'm sorry, Dave, you broke up on that. I didn't.
I'm just saying, any questions for Jean?
I have one question, Mayor Manel.
Go ahead, Jess.
Since Central Elgin, Aylmer, and Dunwich Dutton are also on this contract, was there a price negotiated by all three, or all three had to submit separately?
No, all three have come into agreement with them at different times. So we're all separate contracts. It wasn't done as one. I believe that they kind of started off historically in the west end of the county first, and they've kind of slowly gained customers kind of coming east over the years. The company themselves is based out of Lambton County, so they've kind of come from that direction. But yeah, they're all separate contracts, not one larger contract. At some time in the future, that's probably something worth looking at. All of us getting together, if we are actually using the same contractor, maybe there's some opportunities to look at a better deal or something. But at this point, that's not what is on the table.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jean? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number DCS 20-13 entitled Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Services Agreement be received. Municipal staff be authorized and directed to enter a 3-year service agreement extension for bylaw enforcement services with MEU Consulting as outlined in the report. Mover and seconder.
So moved.
Moved by Serna, seconder Lewis, all in favor.
Counselor Whitner,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Cerna,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis,
Yes.
Counselor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jaguar,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Thank you. Arun, you're doing the next report on the COVID impact on the budget.
Yes, Your Worship. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Today I have one report before you. It is a report which has a lot of ifs and buts in it, unfortunately. It is based on what we may see our year panning out over the next few months based on where the pandemic goes. We had brought forward a recommendation to council a few weeks ago to waive interest and penalty on the taxes that were due at the time, which council had approved until April 30th. We are now seeking extension of that waiver until September 15th, which is our last but one installment that comes due on September 15th based on the final billings. And we would also like to recommend waiver of penalty on the water and sewer bills, the first of which was due April 30th. So effective from that one, we would like to request council consider waiver of these interest and penalty charges to assist the community at this time of uncertainty and a lot of challenges. There has been a significant amount of support provided at provincial and federal levels of government. So the optimistic expectation right now is that Malahide will not see significant arrears or unpaid taxes or water and other dues over the coming few months. However, it all depends on how things proceed, and at this time the provincial government is talking about reopening bit by bit, so there is a positivity that there will be businesses back in action. There is also a lot of support being provided to the farming community, so it is expected that as the season comes on, that work will continue. One aspect that has now affected Malahide the largest is our recreation programs. Those are the ones that are significantly affected by the social distancing and other enhanced safety protocols. So we have reached out to various community groups to see what their plan is, and some have had to cancel events that were coming up immediately. Some are still hoping that things will continue in, say, July or September. So we have tried to tweak our expectations of revenue from the community hall rentals and other related recreation programming. And that's part of the budget impact presently being put forward to council. The chart that is included in your report is an estimate of loss of revenue for events that some of those events we are expecting to happen later in the year. So we have not taken that as a revenue loss at this point. And we have also assumed that building permit activity will resume. It's basically assumed that it's being put on a hold. We are not completely losing that revenue because, and I'm sure the director, Jean, can speak more to it if you'd like to. So that is one of the assumptions. There have been several assumptions taken in calculating budget impacts. The other aspect is that the grants have to be now slightly adjusted, so that assists us a little bit because we save in not having to give out some of that funding. We are still waiting to hear back from some organizations organizing groups because they themselves are unable at this point to arrive at a decision. Typically, the grant funding is flowed out around this time of the year, but where things are still fluid, we will not disperse those funds unless we have some firm understanding of where programs are going to occur. So apart from the waiver of the interest fees and penalties, senior staff also looked at all the other user fees. And most of the user fees are based on a particular use, say when you rent a community center or when you request a building permit. So those are not being put forward for any kind of adjustment or amendment or waiver. Even with the interest being waived on water, or I'm sorry, interest being waived on taxes and penalties being waived on water, the expectation still is that taxes and water payments are to be paid. It's just that that hard date of April 30th or June 15th is not going to be held as firmly. There was also a attachment which showed the results of a poll that was conducted by MFOA, which shows how other municipalities are tackling this issue. And since this was primarily all lower tier municipalities, population under 10,000, you'll see that most of them are expecting similar impacts. Loss of revenue is primarily from recreation programs and interest revenue. We are not like some of the larger municipalities who have a transit system or a significant community programming, even if it's one arena or a swimming pool. So because we don't have those kind of facilities, the direct impact is much less for us at this point, at least.
Are you all done, Arun?
No, there was one other point. So the other request or the other recommendation that has been brought forward in this report is we are tentatively recommending that some of the non-essential capital projects be put on hold until September 15th at least. These are primarily all parks related projects, and we would like to hold off on those projects. One, because we do not know to what extent parks will be reopened, and two, because it would assist us for at least the very short term with our cash outflow as well. And then finally, because those projects are such, they are more in terms of equipment purchases or equipment installation, that if it turns out that things are flowing quite well, we can still proceed with it towards the end of the year and have some of that equipment purchasing done within the current budget. I also expect more of this impact to be apparent next year. So we will have to, once we get into the 2021 budget process, hopefully we will have more information that will allow us to present a more informed picture to council. And now I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Arun. Actually, I'm quite surprised that the effect of the COVID on Malahide Township compared to some of our neighbors is mild compared to what I thought it might be. One thing that we have not included is our share of the community complex. Now, I know they shut down early, and certainly the halls have not been rented out, and I don't think there's any activity going on there during the summer months. So where do we stand on the community complex?
So as I understand, the community complex, yes, it has been shut down, and they were very quick to take the ice off and try to, mitigate some of the costs related to the arena. I do not have any specific numbers as such yet, what that what the expected cost of the shutdown of that arena is. And perhaps I'll ask Michelle to jump in from what she knows about it.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Certainly, Your Worship, through you. I have had a preliminary discussion with the Elmer CAO, and some members of council or even the public that might be watching may have read some information in the Elmer Express this week that spoke about a significant estimated deficit for the town of Elmer. And one of the main contributing figures that was mentioned in both the staff report and of course was communicated in the paper was the fact of the East Elgin Community Complex. And the implications are much more significant to the town of Elmer rather than right now the township of Malahide. And that being because as Arun has mentioned, the arena portion, the ice was taken out early, and there was an ability with the new arrangements of the staffing and the new agreement that we have in place, there was an ability for a lot of the staff to be redeployed from the arena operations to Elmer Parks and Rec. So that was done earlier than it would have normally been, and there were more individuals that were redeployed than what was originally anticipated. So the town of Elmer is incurring additional expense in their Parks and Rec because of those additional staff wages, where the complex is actually seeing less staff wages than were anticipated because of the redeployment. So it is going to be the adjustments to the East Elgin Community Complex are going to affect both municipalities, but at the moment they're having a greater impact on the town of Elmer, and that's what has been communicated previously. So we will definitely see some financial impact because there are no revenues coming in, and there are still some expenses that are going to need to be incurred, although there are definitely measures being put in place similar to our own facilities where measures are being taken to minimize the ongoing expenses wherever possible. We don't have a confirmed number yet, Your Worship, but we're working with the town of Elmer to determine what that will be over the next number of weeks.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Question for either Michelle or Arun on the financial report.
I have one if I could.
Go ahead, Mark.
Arun, are we seeing much non-payments of anything yet in the taxes or anything like that?
Through your worship to Councillor Winder, no. Our March 15th installment, the areas that we see are fairly in line with prior years or prior installments. The water bills also, we have received pretty much all payments. There's a very small portion that is still outstanding, which is not far from the norm again.
Okay, that's good news. Could I have a second one, please?
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, like you talked about delaying some of these purchases and things like that. Today, the equipment committee did meet. There was some talk about buying a new tractor. I guess today it was decided that we're going to kind of put that on hold until we see how our finances shake out. So we said it's kind of finalized some of the specs, but we're also going to be looking maybe leasing or renting something instead of buying. So give us some time, give us some options, and we'll see how our finances shake out after all this is over. So just some FYI. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions for either Arun or Michelle? Go ahead, Dominique.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Arun. I'm wondering if we could reconsider what you said in the report in terms of dog tags. Because when I look at the spirit of the other measures we are proposing, and I mean, in dollars, when I do some calculations, we're talking about, maybe a $30 penalty that's being waived for a property tax bill, or a $12 penalty that's being waived on the water bill. And I think the message we're sending, which I appreciate, is that we recognize that times are tough and every dollar counts. And it was brought to my attention that amongst all the user fees, one of our user fees related to dog tags appear to have that kind of time bound where if you don't pay by the end of March, suddenly it's 50% more, which is and I know it's been positioned as a discount, but we all know that technically it's not, and every other municipality is very clear as if you pay before March 31st, it's a price, and then there's a 5 or 10% penalty fee for paying after. So long story short, I think when I look at every way that at our level, we could help our residents, and we want to be family friendly and dog friendly, I think that waiving this extra fee or this almost surcharge that is 50% would be one way that we could help our residents.
Through you, Your Worship, to Deputy Mayor Didier. So there are a few points. This was discussed among senior staff for sure as we looked at all the user fees. And the dog tag fee, I would respectfully defer that it is not a penalty. The dog tag fee for one dog is set at $67 with a incentive for early payment, which is, for example, in London, it would be $56, and if you paid early, you would have, or no, actually in London, you pay $56, but if you are registering your dog for the first time after July, which is essentially half the year, you would pay only $30. So it's similar to what we have in place in a way. However, there are other municipalities which do not have a dog tag fee of $67. I do know that. So having said that, I believe it's not a penalty similar to an interest or penalty charge on a water bill or a tax bill. It's a regular user fee. This user fee is an annual user fee. It's $60 on a household which probably has commitments of all sizes and types. It's the process that we follow is that dog tags are available right from November for pickup and payment, so that they can avail of this early payment incentive. And there is a whole span from November to March 31st where they can they have the ability to take advantage of the discounted amount. We then still allow a period of time before we actually charge the full invoice amount. So at this time, we have out of about 1,100 invoices that were done in November, we currently have less than 100 that are still unpaid. So which adds up to roughly 8,000. I'm sorry. It adds up closer to $9,000 in outstanding. So these invoices or these clients would now be billed the rest of the dog tag fee, which would be another $9,000. So in terms of revenue loss, we would be looking at roughly $9,000 if we were to waive this, treating it as a penalty rather than a regular user fee.
And if I may jump in, Your Worship, one of the other aspects is that the council has traditionally treated the revenue from the sales of dog tags to pay essentially for animal control program. So the revenue that's collected, and that's one of the reasons that our fees are as high as they are. And I know there are other municipalities in the region that charge a significantly less amount, but what their practice is that some of the general cost of their animal control program is borne by everyone. What Malahide Council has decided a number of years ago is that the cost of animal control should be borne by those who actually have the animals. So similar to how we deal with building permits, the people that benefit from the building permits and from the development, they pay the fees for that permit process. But again, this is kind of the same type of philosophy. So if we significantly reduce the amount of revenue that's going to come in towards our animal control program, that is going to definitely impact at the end of the year on the bottom line if we have to undertake enforcement actions and activities. So as the treasurer's indicated, it is not considered to be a penalty per se, other than it is an incentive to pay early, and again, quite frankly, to assist in cash flow for the municipality and a number of other benefits by having those revenues come in early. But we do use those revenues to assist us in actually paying the cost of the animal control programs. And as the treasurer's indicated, we will be about $9,000 less if we decide not to full revenue amount on those particular accounts.
Go ahead.
If I may follow up, Mr. Mayor. So two things. We shouldn't be budgeting on the additional fees. I think there's a risk if we counted on a majority, or not a majority, but a number of people paying the full fee. I think we took a risk to begin with, because what if everybody would have paid before March 31st? We would have been short $9,000 is what I'm hearing. So I'm questioning what our budgeting is. My second point is that we are waiving other penalties and other revenues, and we're not worrying about our revenue at this time because this is special circumstances. We're worrying about, the wallet of our residents. And so I'm saying, as a temporary measure, what if, because like I said, what if everybody would have paid on time? And I also have an issue that the deadline came just in the midst of the chaos of March, when everybody was having to figure out what to do with work and with their children. And I'm sure the last thing on their mind was to make sure they paid their dog tag by March 31st to ensure that they didn't get an extra 50% in fee. So it almost sounds like there's someone in the audience agreeing with dog tag fees. Someone like a canine agreeing with my argument. But so that's why I'm trying to be consistent and apply the exact same logic that we're applying to the other relief measures we're providing.
And I think staff appreciate and understand the comments and the concerns of the deputy mayor. It was staff's position that we weren't going to consider waiving user fees at this point, or recommending waiving or user fees or any additional charges related to those at this time. If council wishes to take different action, of course, that is absolutely the council's prerogative. And but at this point, it isn't something that staff is recommending.
Thank you, Michelle. Just a brief history on the dog tags. We used to hire people to go out from door to door collecting dog tags, and what the expense of doing that was almost what the revenue was. And so then we decided we could do it at the office level, and the incentive was if you paid before March 31st, it was literally half of what it was if it was later. And that seemed to work out very well. And so this is not a penalty, this is an incentive. And so I would not be prepared to change my mind. Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, thank you. I had a suggestion a long time ago about how to look after animal revenue, but nobody liked it, so we'll just leave that alone. But I just wanted to comment on Councillor Widner's comment about postponing some of these big purchases. I find myself that I rent a tractor every spring, and it's cheap. I cannot afford to buy one, even a good used one, for the amount of money I pay for rent. So I think we're gonna have to look at all these things, because by the time these governments are done, federal, provincial, things like that, they're spending money like crazy trying to keep the economy afloat. They're talking recession, maybe depression, but somebody's got to pay. And I'm worried not so much about this year, but what's going to happen next year and the year after that. They already started cutting. I go back to Catfish Creek and cattle and all that, getting their budgets cut in half. They were trying to do something, and all of a sudden, boom. And we're going to have some big troubles coming up, more than I think we realize. So I'm all for postponing these purchases, trying to look at different alternatives. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Rick. Any other questions for Arun?
I just have one.
Go ahead, Mark.
Years ago, wasn't some of the dog tag money used for livestock claims where animals were killed or something like that? But with most of the way livestock is raised now in the municipalities, total confinement, so I don't know if we have a lot of claims, but you can maybe enlighten me on that.
Your worship, through you, I could speak to that one. No, that livestock compensation program is actually a provincially funded program. The township is responsible for administering it, but it is reimbursed the cost of whatever is paid out. So that is not the case in the sense that we have to finance those, since we finance it temporarily, but then we submit a claim and we're reimbursed from the province for that. And fortunately, as you said, we have very diligent livestock operators in our community, and there's actually been, I shouldn't say this out loud because there'll probably be a claim next week now, but we haven't had one for the last few years as a result of those measures that are in place. But fortunately, that
so
comes on our
if
Sorry,
I
go
may
ahead,
add, we have a very small budget of like $500 for livestock claims, which is again just an offset for any expenses. So it's an in and out, it's a wash. We don't have anything on our budget itself. And we haven't seen those claims for the last couple of years.
So the extra money, where does it get used up then?
The extra money, sorry.
Well, we're saying we got this 9,000. What is it used for actually? Like we do already have the tags paid for, right? Before that?
So this dog tag revenue is used for the bylaw and the enforcement, the MEU consulting that does the enforcement now, as well as we have to pay St. Thomas Shelter for the animal shelter costs that they charge us, and some other smaller costs that are in the budget.
Yeah, and your worship, through you as well, the dog catcher essentially and all of those types of things. So where there are stray dogs, the revenue that is borne this program is used to pay the costs of essentially those costs that are related to dogs in our community. So a stray at large that has to be captured or confined, as the treasurer's indicated, the shelter costs with the city of St. Thomas, the agreements we have there, and those types of things. So, and again, there are definitely costs still in terms of the administration program. So there are still administrative costs in actually ensuring that everyone gets their tags and license and invoice and those types of things.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Arun or Michelle? Seeing none, mover and second, report number FIN 20-10 entitled COVID-19 Impact on Budget 2020 be received, and the waiver of interest penalties or other late payment charges on property taxes as well as water and sewer billings be continued until September 15th, 2020. The municipal staff to defer remaining non-critical capital projects until September 15th, 2020, at which time more information will be available related to the pandemic.
So
moved by Moore, seconder.
Sure.
Second by Lewis, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Giguère,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Okay, nothing for committees and outside boards. Correspondence, we have 9 items of correspondence. Anyone wish to make comment, support? Nothing burning. Can I have a motion to receive and file then, please? 1 through 9.
I'll move it.
Moved by Cerna,
Second.
second by Lewis, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Giguère,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Okay, is Brad there? Yes, Michelle?
Your worship, no, the inspector is not in attendance this evening. He has submitted the year-end report. He's indicated that if we wish to relay any questions or concerns or comments, we can do that through myself, or if council wishes and has some specific questions or things that they wish to address in person, he is prepared to come to a future video teleconference meeting. and if we request him to do so. So we can, if council wishes to actually have him formally present, we can defer taking any action on this evening, or we can simply relay any questions or concerns or comments, and those items can be reported back at a future meeting.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Any questions on the OPP report for 2019? Seeing none, can I have a motion to receive and file, please?
Move it.
Moved by Widner, seconder.
Second.
Seconder by Lewis, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Giguere,
Yeah.
Mayor Manel.
Yes.
Carried.
Anything else under other business?
I have something, if I could, a couple, please.
Go ahead, Mark.
I did send out an email today from Donna Lunn about the Harvest Bowl. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to read it or look at it.
Yes, I did.
I read it.
Okay, I guess basically what she's asking for, there's still a lot of material in the basement, and with the pandemic going on, there's a lot of call for it. She can't even keep up with it. What she's basically asking for, I guess, is maybe just to have, open up the hall for a couple people for maybe 2 or 3 days, for a couple people plus herself. They would follow all the protocols for sanitation, COVID, and whatever they need to do, just to get this moved out. But she's been told the hall is not available, so I don't know if council can make a decision to maybe help this out. She also is beginning to get a lot of call. She can run the dehydrator again, but that's another problem. We'll have to deal with that when it comes. But I think it's a good program, and with this kind of thing going on where the food is very essential, I think we should maybe move and let her have that usage, but I'll leave that up to council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Certainly the policy, that would go against the policy that we have at the present time. And I am certainly very sympathetic with her position. That I know that in the letter that obviously that there's been an increase in demand for the soup mix. If she had no alternative, I could probably bend, but the other alternative is to take this home and package it at her place. And so I'm going to suggest to council that Harvest Bowl take that alternative, and hopefully by the time we need the dehydrator, that things have rectified itself as far as COVID goes.
And your worship, if I may, I know that some of the product has been made, like Donna Lunn has contacted our staff, and there has been some product that has been given to her, released from the facility. And my understanding is that was done upon request. I wasn't aware. This is the first I'm hearing of this particular request now. Certainly staff are prepared to work with Mrs. Lunn to be able to get the product that is in the basement out of the basement and into her hands so that she is able to process it on her own. I said this is the first I've heard about not having sufficient quantities, because I know we have already provided certain things to her, and my understanding is staff are continuing to work with her in that regard. No, you're right, your worship. It is contrary to the current regulations and guidance documents from the province to allow usage of our community halls, even for this particular situation. But certainly staff are more than willing to get her the materials out of the basement to be able to allow her to be able to continue to make the soup mix in another location.
Well, I guess the problem with it is doing it in her own personal garage is not the best place to be doing it. And she did talk to the health unit, and they have no problems at all with it being in the hall, and being as only be about 3 people altogether. You know, with the food and processing and all the laws and everything, I think it'd just be a lot safer place to do it than in someone's garage. But, she really has no other alternatives.
Well, may I say something?
Dominique is first, then you, Rick. Go ahead, Dominique.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would verify the interpretation of the regulation. I think the intent is not to hold any community events and to respect, you know, a maximum of 5 people gathering. You know, we did hold a council meeting in a place that was technically closed. But I think for a specific purpose and with the permission and oversight of the health unit, I think there is room for interpretation in that regulation, and I would be prepared to support that we assist our organization. It's much needed right now.
Rick?
Yeah, I concur with both Councilor Widner and Deputy Mayor Jagir. And I'm thinking that like food processing is an essential service and everybody's doing it. So I think more, you have to look at that part of it more so than the facilities that they're using. And look at it that way and say, yeah, she's feeding the poor. She's feeding it's a necessity. And just because they want to use the hall, all we have to do as a staff member is go and unlock the thing. They know what they're doing. So I don't see where it puts anybody else in jeopardy. And a lot of times too, when her workers are there, it's a husband and wife team. Well, they're not going to stand 6 feet apart for making food and then go home and curl in bed together, you know. So I think we're taking this a little bit too far, and I think it should be allowed that they do the fantastic work that they are doing. Thank you. That's my comment.
Well, let's hear from the other members to see what your feeling is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thoughts are to go along with Dominique, our deputy mayor, and Councillor Cerna. I personally can see no problem with the family going in with possibly no more than 3 individuals in there and keeping their distance, etc. And to get permission specifically, right, in the health unit, that they have no concerns with it. And that's my comment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Max. Any other comments? Obviously, I'm getting consensus. If I count noses, I'm seeing 4 in favor. So do you need a motion, Michelle?
I would prefer a motion, Your Worship, just because it's contrary to the direction that council had given previously.
Okay. If you've got a motion that you've got written up to accommodate this?
I don't have one specifically, Your Worship, but essentially the nature of the motion would be to enable the Harvest Bowl to utilize the South Dorchester Community Hall for the purpose of food preparation related to the Harvest Bowl activities, recognizing and respecting all of the provincial regulations that are in place for those purposes.
Okay.
Also,
so you've heard the motion.
Also, Mr. Mayor, I would like to see a limit for the number of people that will be allowed in there if that goes through.
And that would be part of my comment, Your Worship, with respect to respecting all of the provincial regulations. So, yeah.
That can be provided.
Okay. So mover and seconder for the motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Cerna, second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Did you? Seconded by Moore. All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yeah.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jagir,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business?
Just one if I could. We,
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I guess it was Wednesday night, there was quite a bad, well, they had the potential to be a horrific crash out on Glen Cole and Hacienda. I just want people to maybe just keep an eye on what they're doing, because this one, I shudder to think if it would have been some runners from the college, I guess there'd be nobody there, but an Amish buggy or some kids out bicycling. This car just apparently just drove right into the back end of one of these great big sprayers, didn't look left, right, or center, and just nailed it. Luckily, there wasn't any serious injuries, but people have to really pay attention. It was still sunlight out, and it was lots of flashing lights. And still, there's a problem with the tractors and machinery on the road. People don't slow down. So if we get that message out there, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Your Worship,
Actually, no,
through-
that fellow was an accident.
Your
What's
Worship,
that?
through you, actually staff have prepared an item to go into the Malahide Informer for next week's edition, recognizing that event that took place earlier this week, just reminding everyone to share the road, be respectful of the farm vehicles, and be cognizant of what's out there. So we have already taken that action to make sure that that messaging gets out there. We'll do that as well on our Facebook and website.
Appreciate that. There's no sign for that. I'd appreciate any help we can get. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, bylaws. Mover and seconder, bylaw number 20-32, being a bylaw to authorize an agreement with MEDA Engineering and Technical Service for the provision of bridge culvert inspection services, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Mover and seconder.
I'll move.
Second it.
Moved by Serna, second by Lewis. All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jager,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, bylaw number 20-31, being a bylaw to authorize the agreement with MEU Consulting to provide services for the enforcement of bylaws and provincial offenses, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed.
Move.
Mover and seconder. Moved by Moore.
Second.
Seconder. Seconder.
Second.
Second by Lewis. All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jager,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Thank you. Next, we need a mover and second of the council move into closed session at 8:55 pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board related to the property on Imperial Road. Mover and second.
Jager, I'll move.
I'll
Moved
second
by
it.
Jager, by Galinsky. All in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor Galinsky, Deputy Mayor Jager,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
Michelle, do you need some time to move into closed session so we're not on YouTube? Right?
Yes, Your Worship. If we can take just a brief recess, then we'll allow our IT to be able to disconnect the live streaming and stop the recording, and then we can carry on. So if you just bear with us for a couple of minutes while we get that taken care of. Thank you. We're live.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Well, we report on our closed session that during the closed session, the council provided direction to the municipal staff regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board relating to property on Imperial Road. And there's nothing further to report. So I need a mover and second of the for 20-28 being a confirmatory bylaw, be given a first, second, third reading and properly signed and sealed.
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Lewis, seconder,
Second by Moore.
second by Moore, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Cerna.
Yes.
Wake up.
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
I'm here.
Councillor Galinsky,
No.
Mayor Jager,
Yes.
Councillor Mayor Manel,
Yes,
carried.
thank you.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're good now, Rick.
Okay.
Now I need a mover and second of the council adjourn its meeting at 9:35 to meet again on May 21st at 7:30.
I move it.
Second.
Moved by
Whatever.
Galinsky, second by Widner, all in favor?
Councillor Widner,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Cerna,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
No. Yes.
Councillor Galinsky,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jager,
Yes.
Mayor Manel,
Yes.
carried.
I've
We
got
are
the
adjourned,
YouTube.
Your Worship.
I've got the YouTube site up. We have 1 troll already and 2 thumbs up.
Oh, good, good. Okay,
Well,
thank you all.
viral, I'm sure.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
you.
Good night. Stay safe and stay warm.